Sonnet poetry, most decasyllabically. It's Rhyme and Reason 758.
There's a rhyme and reason for your life. There's a rhyme and reason why you're...
Hey there, Tony here. How you doing? Hope you're doing great. I know it's getting close to that most wonderful time of year, but I know you're like me. If it ain't got a beat, then it just ain't no treat, right? Of course, I'm talking about that ever-popular writing style known as, are you with me? Known as sonnet poetry, yes. And man, is it ever manly. In fact, that's the main ingredient to stylish poetry and prose, manliness. But before I go on and on about that, check out these facts about sonnet poetry. First, yeah, it's got the beat. Well, purists might call it meter, and the very snooty purist might even spell meter, M-E-T-R-E, but we'll do it the American way, M-E-T-E-R, whatever. Anyway, the point is, according to some sources, the beat comes from a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables that creates the rhythm of lines of poetry. And the units of meter are named feet. Well, I guess you got to have some leg to stand on, right? So, for example, an iamb, and that's I-A-M-B, iamb, that's not easy to say, iamb foot, is a word that uses an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable, as in delight. Notice how the first part, D, is not emphasized, and light is delight. And then the opposite of an iamb, is a trochee, and you can think of a word like poet. So you have the emphasis on the po, and a de-emphasis, you could say, or a falling away of the et, poet. Almost like et is an afterthought. Anyway, okay, so the lines in a poem are also defined by the number of feet they have. So let's say, write some poetry using iambic pentameter. And that means you have 5 sets of iambs. Penta means 5. You have 5 sets of those per line for a total of 10 syllables. And that's a pattern a lot of sonnet poetry has employed over the years. So hang in there. I'm getting to the manly part. All right. Next comes the rhyme scheme. You got to have a rhyme scheme. Sonnets tend to use what are called end rhymes, and those are just what you'd expect, words at the end of the sentences that rhyme with words at the end of other sentences, and they do it in a deliberate, recognizable pattern. The rhyme schemes can use letters of the alphabet to reveal the pattern. So let's say you have a 4-line poem where the first line rhymes with the third, and the second line rhymes with the fourth. You'd call that rhyme scheme an A-B-A-B. You might say a bab, but you wouldn't need to because it's just the letters. Finally, the lines in a poem that use iambic pentameter typically contain 10 syllables, and that's considered decasyllabic, which is why I started this episode with decasyllabically. Now, I think I kind of made that word up, but, I turned decasyllabic into an adverb, whatever. And deca means 10. So penta means 5 and deca means 10, and we're moving on, okay? Now, did you catch the manliness and all that? Huh? Don't tell me you missed it. I hope you caught it, because a real man would have caught it. And that's because manly men will not fail to see the complexity in the poetic design. Manly men will clearly see that poetic design flows ultimately from, say it with me, original design. And that, of course, implies, and you can translate that to mean it outright says, the original designer does exist. because the intelligence it took to even come up with the terms iambic pentameter and decasyllabic verse could never have originated in primordial goo. Couldn't happen. Now, combining that knowledge with some inspiration from a beautiful photograph of a friend on a social network, I saw this picture and I came up with a 14 decasyllabic sonnet, and a sonnet generally has 14 lines. And in this case, in my sonnet, which I call the Sunset Sonnet, it has the 14 lines of the decasyllabic nature, meaning there are 10 syllables in each line. So you can check me to see if I'm incorrect. And here's the sonnet with the decasyllabic. See, I'm just loving saying that word now, so I got to say it. Anyway, here's the Sunset Sonnet. My liberated heart can spread its wings and consume these smoky sun rays today. My thirsty eyes soak in all the splendor before this mountain moment fades away. My mind enters this twilight lucid dream and pauses to create a déjà vu. 1,000 thankful thoughts rise up to God, who helps me write this short story to you. The words become a precipice to me, a rocky peak of pictures in my brain. Reality or not, now I wonder how long I'll wander through this vast terrain. Long enough for me to write this sonnet while the setting sun's light is upon it. There you go. 10 lines. You notice a slight pause after each line. That gives you an indication of where to stop counting the syllables. But that's 14 lines of 10 syllables for a total of 140 syllables in the Sunset Sonnet. Just want to leave you with that manly poetry. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rhyme and Reason podcast, brought to you by TonyFunderburk.com, owned by me, Tony Funderburk. And I always remind you, as you well know if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, to remember that life does have rhyme and reason because God made you.
There's a rhyme and reason for your life. There's a rhyme and reason why you're here. Give your time and season to the one